Welcome back, everyone. Today we're tackling a well-known contradiction, the genealogy of Jesus, or more specifically, who was Joseph's father. The answer depends on which gospel you read, and the differences can be quite striking. Let's break it down. Both the Gospels of Matthew and Luke give us genealogies of Jesus, but they don't exactly match up. Let's take a look at these two genealogies and see where the differences lie. First, let's look at Matthew 1:16 in the KJV. And Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. According to Matthew, Joseph's father was a man named Jacob. Now let's check Luke 3:23 in the KJV. And Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli. Here we see that Luke says Joseph's father was Heli, not Jacob. So, Matthew says Joseph's father was Jacob, while Luke says his father was Heli. Let's see if modern translations like the NIV make any difference. In Matthew 1:16, it says, And Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus who is called the Messiah. Just like in the KJV, Joseph's father is still Jacob in the NIV. Now let's check Luke 3:23 in the NIV. Now Jesus himself was about 30 years old when he began his ministry. He was the son, so it was thought, of Joseph, the son of Heli. Again, just like the KJV, the NIV tells us that Joseph's father was Heli in Luke. So whether you're reading the KJV or the NIV, the contradiction remains. Matthew says Joseph's father is Jacob, while Luke says his father is Heli. In fact, there are more contradiction within this contradiction. Let's take a look at them. This is the first half of the genealogy of Jesus that goes down to Zerubbabel and Shealtiel. When compared side by side, the genealogy in Luke has 9 additional generations when compared to Mark. If one generation is around 20 years, that is about 180 years of generational difference between the two. That is not the only one. In 1 Chronicles chapter 3, the genealogy of David was also given. When compared to the one in Matthew, we can see that they are names that were removed intentionally in order to fulfill certain symbolic gesture, like the number 14. In fact, the name of Jehoiakim, who was supposed to be either 18 or 8 years old when he began his reign, was also removed. The father of Zerubbabel is also different in both genealogies. If we look into the genealogy of Matthew, the author actually tried to modify the genealogy so that it can be a nice 14 generation within 3 periods. Unfortunately, the author removed too many names that there are only 41 names at the end. From here, we can see that the focus of the authors is not on facts or accuracy. They are willing to change the facts to fit their own narrative and believe. Now, let's break down how Christian apologists address this contradiction. Christian apologists have proposed several explanations to try to reconcile these differences. Let's take a look at the 2 most common arguments. These are 2 different genealogies. Many apologists argue that Matthew is giving us Joseph's legal genealogy, tracing his royal lineage through King David via his father Jacob. Meanwhile, they claim that Luke is tracing Jesus' biological genealogy through Mary, with Heli being Mary's father, essentially making Heli Joseph's father-in-law. While this explanation might seem reasonable, there are several issues. First, neither gospel explicitly says that Luke is tracing Mary's genealogy. Both genealogies are presented as Joseph's lineage. There's no textual indication that Heli is Joseph's father-in-law. In fact, Luke clearly refers to Joseph as the son of Heli, not as his son-in-law. Both of these explanations try to harmonize the genealogies, but neither fully resolves the issue. The text itself doesn't provide any indication that one genealogy is legal and the other biological, nor does it suggest a levirate marriage. So we're left with 2 genealogies for Joseph, one saying his father was Jacob, the other saying his father was Heli. According to Bart Ehrman, a well-known New Testament scholar, contradictions like this are the result of different traditions being passed down by different communities. In his book Jesus Interrupted, he writes, "The differences in the genealogies reflect the fact that the gospel writers were drawing from different sources, with each one shaping the story to fit their theological agendas. This view suggests that the gospel writers were more concerned with making their own points than providing exact historical details. Accuracy is not their focus. Furthermore, Raymond, a leading scholar on the birth narratives of Jesus, points out that early Christians might have developed these genealogies to fit into prophecies about the Messiah being a descendant of David, rather than adhering strictly to historical records. So, is this a Bible corruption? Yes. The genealogies likely come from different oral traditions that were later written down by Matthew and Luke, each with its own theological focus. As Bruce Metzger notes in his book The Text of the New Testament, the genealogies of Jesus, though differing in detail, were likely preserved through different traditions, reflecting the theological priorities of the gospel writers more than strict historical accuracy. In conclusion, we have two conflicting genealogies for Joseph, the father of Jesus. Matthew says his father was Jacob, while Luke says his father was Heli. Christian apologists offer explanations like the distinction between legal and biological genealogies or levirate marriage. But these explanations don't fully solve the contradiction. This is one of many examples where different gospel traditions have led to inconsistencies in the Bible. What do you think? Does this contradiction matter, or is it something we can overlook? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Seek the truth, and the truth shall set you free.